morning, everyone. Welcome back to Two Old Crows Homestead. Shelly here. It's been a while. It's been, gosh, I think, I want to say November maybe was the last time I posted a video. And right now it's the very last day of January. So, got a lot of updates. Where have we been? For about, let's see, somewhere toward the beginning of November, no, not November, December, I started getting sick. And I don't know, I'm not exactly sure what I had. I didn't go get tested or whatever. I was just sick. And then, the company that I work for, we shut down the week between Christmas and New Year's. We do that every year. And I wasn't like out of commission sick, but I was not feeling well. You know, you're just like ran down, no energy, all of that kind of stuff. So we had a great, holiday, seeing family and being with family and all that stuff. But it wasn't, I was just under the weather. And then we've had some crazy weather going on around here, and just other things happening. I got sick again the week before last, or last week. I guess it was last week. But right now I feel great. Everything's good. We're all good. But as you saw in the clip right before this, Randy is laid up in the hospital, and I'm actually on my way up there right now. Yesterday he had knee replacement surgery, and this was something that we've known for a lot of years, that he was going to have this done. Randy is for any of you all that know us personally, everybody knows that Randy is not super tall, and him and I are about the same height, and I actually think that I might be like 1 inch taller than him or something like that. But his two brothers are actually tall. They're taller than him. And but when Randy was a kid, 6 years old, I think, him and his mom and I were talking about this last night. He was in a car wreck, and when the wreck happened, the other car, I think, I have the newspaper stuff from this, but the other car landed on top of the car that Randy was in, and he was sitting in the front seat. So this was like 1975 or something like that, and the dashboard came down and crushed his legs. And honestly, at the time of the wreck, that was when Indianapolis had gotten the fire department in Indianapolis had gotten what they call the jaws of life, that thing that pries people out of cars or whatever. And apparently the thing had just been invented or something in Indianapolis. That was the first one, or machine, whatever that is. I guess an apparatus. That's the first time they had ever gotten one of those, or had one of those. And getting Randy out of that car was the first time it had ever been used in Indy. So, they got him out of the car, and then from the time that Randy was 6 until, I don't know, maybe about 12 or something like that, he had various surgeries on his legs. There was a doctor that had moved up to Indianapolis from Florida. He was a specialist, and he became Randy's doctor, and surgery after surgery after surgery. I mean, there was a couple times he was in a body cast, and in a house with no air conditioning. Imagine that. Yeah, so he got to an average height, and they did a surgery that ensured that his knee wouldn't grow anymore and undo all of the work that they had done. And I may not be relaying this story absolutely correctly. This is things that I have pieced together over the years of hearing about all of this. And I'm just paraphrasing. So, for a long time, Randy has pretty much lived with constant pain. And him being a truck driver, crawling up and down out of a truck, that didn't help. And so for a long time, we've known that he was going to have at least his left knee replaced. And that was the worst one. So yesterday, that was done. And let me just tell you real quick. Let me tell you real quick how good God is. Like, it's just... So, Randy was supposed to have the surgery yesterday morning. He was like the second one on the list. And we really like our doctor. We really like the orthopedic surgeon that we have. And Randy has seen him for a long time, for like, I don't know, 10 or 12 years. He did a surgery on Randy's knee about 10 years ago, and at that time he told Randy, he was like, this knee needs some work. You're gonna have to do something about this at some point. And Randy's like, yeah, I know. So we've been with this guy for a long time. He knows Randy's case, all this kind of stuff. So at some point last summer, Randy, or I don't know, it's probably been about a year ago, Randy figured out that he has an allergy to nickel. And because he had a belt buckle that was like rubbing his belly and he was getting like blisters, and it was scratching real bad. And he did some research, and he told me to order a nickel-free belt buckle from Amazon. And I did, and lo and behold, within 2 weeks, it was gone. So he's like, I'm pretty sure I have a nickel allergy. And so last summer when we went to see our doctor, or his doctor, Randy told him that, he asked him what the replacement knee is made of. And they discussed it, and Randy said, well, I'm pretty sure I have a nickel allergy. The doctor writes that in his chart, and he's like, then we'll have to go with a titanium knee when we do the replacement. And that was all that was said about it. And so yesterday, up until yesterday, Randy had been to see him a few times, and I would always go with him to the doctor, and Randy asked him about, because he knows that they do this surgery and you can be awake. You can have a spinal block and be awake during the surgery. I do not know why anyone would do that. But God. Let me tell you. So, Randy says, he tells the doctor, he's like, I want to be awake. And I kind of think that Randy had some like other issues or thoughts about that I won't go into, but as to why he wanted to be awake. But he was adamant about wanting to be awake. And the doctor's like, I'm fine with that, except for, he said sometimes people will, because, you're kind of loopy. You're still kind of out, you're awake, but you're just kind of loopy. And he said some people, get disoriented and they'll start flailing their arms and stuff. And he said that if you start doing that, I'm going to have them put you out. And Randy's like, that's fine. So they get in there, they start, everything. They do the spinal block. And Randy's laying there, and we find out later that at this point, his surgeon sits down next to him, and he's got the scalpel in his hand, and at this point, he says a prayer. We didn't know at the time. He was telling us this after, when we were talking about everything that happened yesterday. And, he's like, I sat down there, and I was just like, okay, Lord, we know that this is a messed up knee. It's not a normal knee replacement. I need your guidance. I need your help here. You know, he's just saying this prayer to himself, asking for the Lord's guidance. Now, let me just stop and say this. I am so very thankful that that's our surgeon, that he does that. If you could pick one, I would pick one that does that. But he said his prayer. He's got his hand on Randy's knee, getting ready to make that incision. And as soon as he gets done praying, Randy says, "Did you remember the nickel allergy?" And the surgeon looks at him and says, "No, I did not." And it was just like, and so he came back into, a nurse came into the room that I was in, and she was like, "Did you know that he has a nickel allergy?" And I said, "Yes." And, you know, they come in and ask you a million times about allergies and stuff, and it you know, you're always thinking about things like medicines and stuff like that. It never occurred to either one of us about that. And so I said, "Yes, I did." And still it wasn't registering why she was asking me that. And about that time, the surgeon walks in and he goes, "I forgot about the nickel allergy." And he goes, and it's in his chart. He goes, "But it didn't get transferred. I didn't transfer it to the page, the allergy page." And I'm like, and then it hits me why this is a problem. I said, "And the joint has nickel in it." And he's like, "Yes, the replacement has nickel in it." And I'm like, oh crap. And, you know, so I'm thinking that, okay, so I'm gotta load him up and go back home and reschedule this or something. And, you know, he was like, "No, I'm having one sent over. It'll be here sometime midday. A titanium knee." And I'm like, okay, so we're still on for today. And he's like, "Yeah, it'll just be this afternoon." And so the knee comes in. They do the knee replacement. Generally, it takes 1.5 to 2 hours. It took him exactly 2 hours to do Randy's knee replacement. When he got in there, and let me just tell you how weird my husband is. He had a whole thing lined up with the surgeon. He's like, "I want a picture of this, and I want a picture of this." And because Randy, when you're talking about surgeries and stuff like that, Randy's watching YouTube videos and looking at pictures, and he wants to know exactly what's happening and all the different kind of procedures to do one thing, and he researches the fire out of it. And I mean, when it comes to stuff like that, you know, they always say, my sister-in-law says, you have to be your biggest advocate when it comes to your medical, you know, your health care and your medical care and all that stuff. And Randy definitely is, because he gets into all of that stuff. I am not that person. I'm just like, okay, you're going to do this? Okay, then just do that, you know. So, he had it all lined out, all, you know, what pictures he wanted and all this stuff. And so, the surgeon, he came through. He got all the pictures, and I'm actually at a friend's house. They found got Randy some crutches. You know, if you ever have to have something done, don't go out and buy all that convalescent stuff that you need. Just ask friends, because most of the time people have that stuff like laying around everywhere. Okay, so the surgeon finished the surgery, and I'm not gonna lie, I was starting to get a little bit nervous because he had been in there so long. But he finally came out, and he said that knee was a bear. And so he starts showing me pictures, and I said, this is not my thing. This is Randy's thing. I'm not into all of that. And he said, no. He said he had pictures of the knee that he had taken out, and it was laid out on a table, and so he took a picture of everything that was laying on the table. And so the first thing that he showed me was the knee joint. And so you know how you go to an orthopedic and they have, you know, like those things sitting on the counter in their office, and they're like toy knees or toy joints, or like your shoulder blade, the whatever, all of that stuff. I don't know medical stuff or terms, but they'll have that stuff there, and they use it to show you, like, you know, what's wrong or where the problem is and all that. The picture that he showed me of Randy's knee, the joint, did not even look like a knee, like those things that you see in their office. It didn't look like a knee at all. And now I know, you know, talking to Randy's mom last night, I know that there is, you know, there were procedures that they did on him over the course of his life when he was a kid to, you know, like relieve some pain, to make things work right, all of that. And a lot of it was, you know, stuff that they had never tried before, but they were trying things. And they got him to a point that he walked. I mean, you know, he's in his 50s and he's walked. And they, at the time, they didn't think he was going to walk. So, you know, kudos to them for problem solving and all of that kind of stuff. But, you know, you get to the point now where you're looking at this and you're like, oh my God, look at that. Doesn't even look like a knee. And he had, he showed me where, you know, the cartilage is supposed to be, and he said he had no cartilage. And, you know, you hear about that all the time. People say it's bone on bone and that kind of thing. But his was absolutely bone on bone, no cartilage, nothing in there to cushion anything. And he said there's not even a remnant of cartilage. There's no indication that there was ever cartilage. And, but he said the other thing that had happened, you know, he said it was the worst knee that he had ever seen, but he said the other thing that he hadn't seen before was that, and I'm probably not going to say this right, so if somebody knows better than me, that's fine. But he said that there is, you know, inside your bone, there's soft bone. I don't know if that's marrow. He didn't refer to it as marrow, but he said there's soft bone, and then the hard bone is on the outside of it. And when you know, you have to like drill into the bone to attach the knee, you know, to the replacement knee, put it in where it goes. And he said that soft bone makes that, you know, you're able to do that. Randy had in his knee, and the bones coming off of his knee, like into his femur and all of that, Randy has no soft bone. It came across to me that was something that was highly unusual and strange. So he got back to the room last night, and he was awake. I was so glad to see him awake. And I could tell because Randy, that knee was very, you know, arthritic. It was kind of big, and that was mainly because of the mess that was in there. He was not able to like lay his leg down flat. It wasn't at an angle all the time, but it just, if he was laying flat and had his leg out as flat as he could make it, it still looked like it was bent. I could, even with his leg completely bandaged up with those heavy duty bandages, you know, all from his thigh down almost to his ankle, or actually it was over his foot because they had to stick their hands underneath it to get a pulse in his foot. All through there, even with that big bandage on, I could tell that his leg was laying out flat. And how awesome is that? So I'm hoping that you hear so many different stories from different people. You know, this is a very common procedure. A lot of people have this done, and it's mixed reviews. Most people know people that had successful knee replacement, and most people know people that had unsuccessful knee replacement, meaning that they still have pain or they still have problems and that kind of thing. By and large, what we have found, Randy and I asking people about it, talking to people about it, the ones who have had success with it, meaning that, you know, if they had to do it again, they would do it again. It was 100% the best thing, that, you know, all of that. Most of the people that had success with it were very diligent about doing their physical therapy and, you know, doing the things that the doctors and the physical therapist told them to do. Those are the people that have had the greatest success with having this surgery. So, and Randy's good about that. He's had other surgeries. He's, you know, he fell one time and messed up his elbow, and he slipped on ice one time and messed up that was actually the first time we met this surgeon, was when he had to have some work done on that knee. And whenever something like that happens, Randy's really good about doing what he's supposed to do, and, you know, whatever the doctor tells him or the physical therapist, he does what, you know, they tell him to do. So today starts that journey. Okay, so he's going to be off work 8 to 12 weeks. They're going to come in today, and I think they're going to put a machine on him that will just start to move that knee back and forth, that joint, and, you know, get it moving. They're probably going to get him up this afternoon and get him walking around on it, putting pressure on it. It's going to be a long road to recovery. And it's a lot. So I am off work. Well, I was off yesterday and today, and then tomorrow and Thursday I'll be working from home, so I can be home with him. And we don't know if he'll be coming home today, since his surgery was so late in the day yesterday. We don't know if he'll be coming home today or if he will come home tomorrow. We'll just play that by ear. After this week, our two oldest daughters are going to come and sit with him when I can't be there, while I'm at work. And if they have to, they're going to take him to physical therapy, and then I'll pick him up, that kind of thing. So that is pretty much the update from yesterday. I had to go home last night to feed our animals and stuff like that. We live about a half hour away from the hospital that he's staying in. So I stayed at home last night and got up and got everybody fed this morning, fed everybody last night, got all the eggs, all of that kind of stuff, everything that needed to be done. Our daughter Sam is going down today to let our dogs out midday and take care of that kind of stuff. And shout out to our son-in-law Josh yesterday. He came over and took care of that stuff, letting our dogs out while I was at the hospital all day yesterday. So thankful to him for that. And yeah, so I think that's going to be it for this video. The next video will be an update on how his therapy and all of that kind of stuff is going. And then hopefully the video after that, I can give you an update of the homestead. But y'all, if you're praying people, keep Randy in your prayers. Keep me in your prayers. Since he's going to be out of commission, it's pretty much going to be me taking care of our homestead, which is fine. We did get a lot of things done before his surgery, you know, knowing that this was coming up. to the point where hopefully all I'll have to do is take care of, feeding and watering animals and all that kind of stuff. But as everybody knows, there's always something happening on the homestead. So yeah, just keep us in your prayers, and I hope y'all have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Yeah, God bless you. Have a great day.